Hello, welcome to Mystery Science. This lesson is going to be all about resources, recycling and rubbish. So last lesson, science rocks. This lesson, science is rubbish. So this follows along our Earth and Atmosphere series, and as I'm sure you know by now, the students at our college are using booklets with all of the tasks that I'm about to give you are already printed out in those booklets. Now, if you're not in the college and you want to work along with us, then all of the tasks are laid out so that you can copy the tables or the information that you need. Right, so the first thing that we're going to do, as always, is we're going to complete our Do Now section. Now, the answers to these questions will be in the previous video, the rock cycle video. The links, by the way, should have been appearing on the screen above me for the playlist for this session. So if you want to watch all of the lessons back to back, you can. And I will also add a link up there for the video. Later on in the videos, there will be links to other playlists for other things that you may be interested in. Could you please give this video a little like, beep that like button, and that will do me a massive favour. Alright, let's answer those Do Now questions. What are the two conditions needed for a metamorphic rock to form? Well, metamorphic rocks are the ones where sedimentary rocks and even igneous rocks have been forced down towards the mantle of the Earth. So you have lots of heat coming from underneath it and lots of pressure squeezing down on the top of it. So to form a metamorphic rock, you need heat and pressure over quite a long period of time. Why wouldn't you find any fossils in igneous rocks? Well, remember that igneous rocks are formed inside magma. It's literally magma cooling, either very rapidly from lava that's bubbled over into the surface, or very slowly over a long period of time in magma deposits underground. Now, any organic material that found its way near the formation of the rock would have been completely wiped out. It wouldn't survive. It would just burn away. Remember that fossil material is organic matter, dead bodies, dead plants that have been trapped in layers and under increasing amounts of pressure, finally just kind of cemented into the rock. So we normally find them in sedimentary rocks. Right, here is your first task. What I'd like you to do is think about the things we throw away and the things that you can recycle. So I want you to pause the video and write in your workbook 5 things that go in your bin bag and 5 things that you can recycle. Alright, welcome back. Now, this has changed an awful lot over time. Now, I am at the moment 43 years old. Now, some students say that that's not very old, and that's lovely of them. But when I was the age of a year 8 student or year 7 student, recycling was kind of a new thing and not something that everybody did. We certainly didn't have boxes to put out for curbside collection. If you're going to recycle something, you had to literally take it somewhere. And what we could recycle were things like glass bottles. We could take glass bottles to large bottle banks. We had cans, aluminium and steel cans. Now, I cannot remember for the life of me which ones could and which ones couldn't be recycled, but we used to have these kind of little strip magnets that everyone was giving them away, these strip magnets that you just kind of place on the sides of a can, and if it stuck, then your can was steel. and I think, if I remember rightly, you put that in one skip, and if it didn't stick, it was aluminium, and you put that in another skip. And it was all the rage at the time for kids my age to be seen stamping down on cans to make them smaller to save space in the recycling boxes. And to promote recycling at this point, we used to get paid if we would go around and collect a bunch of cans from the streets. We'd do our litter picking, pick up a bunch of cans, squash them, and then take them to recycling centres, and we'd actually get some money, but not very much. So it wasn't a great living wage, but it was extra cash, and got stuff off the streets and did a bit of recycling. Nowadays, we put everything in a box or a special bin and just stick it outside, and once a week bin men come and take it away. So in my day, when I was 11, 12 or 13, a fortnightly bin collection would be unheard of. Your bins would be overflowing. So pretty much everything went in the bin. But nowadays it's completely different. So what can we recycle? We recycle card, we recycle plastics. We're going to talk about the types of plastics we can recycle later. We recycle bottles, we recycle paper, we put our food waste into special boxes, and that gets collected. So very little will end up going to the landfill. And the county in which I live and work, which is Devon in the United Kingdom, our garbage trucks, our bin lorries, have slogans on the side with their strapline "Zero to landfill," and that's because their aim is to get everything out of our bins and into some sort of recycling facility, and that's pretty close. I mean, our bins are only collected once a fortnight, and they're very rarely full. They get full around Christmas time when things get a little bit delayed, but other than that, they don't. So what do we throw away and what do we recycle? Rather than give you a massive list, I'm going to leave that up to you to answer. So throughout history, human beings have been quite good at looking around them and seeing natural resources and thinking of ways to use them to enhance our own technology. And this is part of the human being's resourcefulness. But the earth is a bounty of resources. Now, unfortunately, some of those resources and the way that we use them have been damaging the ecosystem. It's unbalanced the finely tuned environment of the planet. We're taking too much. We're not giving enough back. We're burning things that we shouldn't be burning. Now, we have to remember what the fuels that we use actually are. Natural gas, crude oil, coal, all of these things are the remains of dinosaurs, ancient plants, anything that's kind of died and been crushed by sedimentary rock. So we've got layers and layers and layers of things pushing down on all of this stuff. And instead of forming fossils, this has been pressurized so much that it's changed form. So oil is liquefied dinosaur, which is pretty cool. So what's that got to do with anything, Mr. E? Liquefied dinosaurs, quite good. I stick it in my car and off we tootle. The problem is that there were only so many dinosaurs on the planet before they all went extinct. So there's only so much natural oil and natural gas and coal in the earth. And if we keep digging it up and taking it out, then it's going to all disappear. And if we're still reliant on fossil fuels, that's going to be a bad, bad thing, because there won't be any left. Also, what we do with it is we tend to burn it, or we tend to refine it and turn it into plastics, which also cause damage to the environment. So what we're doing is not necessarily a great thing. So we need to be recycling stuff and not pumping carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, enhancing the greenhouse effect and slowly baking us alive. So these resources that we cannot replace are known as non-renewable fuels. A non-renewable resource is one that cannot be replaced. Eventually, if you put enough dead trees into a hole and leave it over a very large period of time, yes, it will decompose and squish and get crushed by pressure and turn into another fossil fuel. But by the time it's done that, we're all going to be dead. So there's no point. There's literally no replacing these things once they're used. So coal, crude oil, natural gas, anything we dig out of the ground, including metals that we mine and minerals that we take from the earth, all of these things are irreplaceable. Over the last 50 or so years, we've become more and more reliant on plastics. Plastics are amazing. We can mold them into whatever we like. Now we can even get printers that print things in 3D for us. You can just make whatever you like out of printable plastic. It's amazing. Now, the problem with this is that most of it, in fact all of it, are derivatives of crude oil. That's stuff we dig out of the ground. That's a non-renewable resource. So not only are we relying on it for power stations and driving our cars around, we're also reliant on oil for our plastics. And this causes a bit of an issue because eventually these are going to run out as well. So what do we do with the plastics that we have? Well, first we have to understand a little bit about plastics. There isn't just plastic. There are about 7 categories of plastic. When we've finished with them and when we're done with these plastics, we like to throw them away. But now we're very good and we can put them in the recycling box. But not all of those plastics can be recycled. Some of them go to the recycling depots, get filtered out, and still have to go to landfill anyway, unfortunately, because they're too toxic because of the way they're made. So when we're looking at household waste, only plastics category 1, plastic category 2 and plastic category 5 can be recycled. All the rest of them end up in landfill. Now this is changing over time. More and more processes are coming into effect, so it's always a good idea to just throw all of it into the recycling box, and then it can be sorted at the depot. Right, here is task number 2. I am going to give you the codes for these 7 categories of plastic. You just saw them and they're little triangular diagrams. If you're wondering where you've seen those diagrams before, those triangles with the number in it, probably on the bottom of a plastic bottle or anything that's plastic should have that somewhere molded onto it, and that will tell you what type of plastic is and what you can do with it. So as I go through these 7 types of plastic, I'd like you to fill in this form with the code, the name, and can you recycle it in the UK. Now remember, I said only categories 1, 2 and 5 currently can be recycled in the UK. Okay, so the first one is polyethylene tetraphthalate. Now, I probably said that wrong. I'm not a chemist by trade, unfortunately, and some of these are really, really weird and don't trip off the tongue very easily. That's why we use the 4-letter code PETE, PETE. Now, this is probably one of the most abundant bits of plastic you'll have in your household. Mostly clear bottles, so bottles from your fizzy drinks, bottles of squash, bottles of water, mouthwash bottles, all of that kind of stuff has PETE or PET. Number 2 is high density polyethylene. So polyethylene is normally shortened to polythene. So polythene bags, for example, your bin bags are HDPE number 2. So these are bottles that are not clear, anything that's kind of opaque, and that means that if you hold it up to the light, you won't see anything through it, or they'll be a little bit translucent. So these are things like milk bottles, shampoo bottles, stuff like that. This is also recyclable, so both of these categories are recyclable in the UK at the moment. Number 3 is polyvinyl chloride or PVC. Now, PVC is a stronger plastic and it's used for cable coverings, bottles for liquids that would hold more toxic liquids that would damage other plastics, things like acids and alkalis and cleaning products. If you put that into a fizzy drinks bottle, it would corrode the inside of the bottle, and you'd end up with a nasty kind of chemical, toxic kind of sludge being formed, and you don't want that. But also cooking oil. Cooking oil is too dense and strong to go into normal bottles, so it has to go into a PVC bottle. Currently cannot be recycled in the UK. Okay, number 4, low density polythene. So these are clear plastic bags, thin films and weak bottles. There's kind of bottles that are really flimsy, easy to squeeze, stuff you'd get that kind of makeup remover in, and stuff like that. Okay, now number 5 is recyclable in the UK, and that's polypropylene. And this is any kind of bendy, squeezy plastic. So your bottles with sour cream, mayonnaise, ketchup, anything that you need to bend that you don't break. So bottle caps that flip open and close, your squeezy bottles and your bendy straws. Now, please note that bendy straws, and actually most other straws, are made of polypropylene, and they can be recycled, but we tend not to. And the problem here, there's been a lot of controversy recently over plastic straws, and large fast food companies have stopped giving out plastic straws. Instead they get those cardboard ones. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty tired of getting a milkshake and having a straw that's disintegrated from the bottom up before the milkshake's even able to be drunk. Now, why is that if the straws can be recycled? The problem is people don't. The fast food restaurants give away thousands upon thousands of straws with the drinks, but people tend to throw everything in the bin, and so these things don't get recycled, they will go to landfill. Also, the trouble with these straws is they're very light, so any kind of light breeze tends to pick them up and discard them all over the place. And also, because they're very small, they go through the filters at the recycling centres, so they mostly end up in landfill anyway. Now, these things don't break down very easily and can be quite toxic to wildlife. And the problem is when they're in landfill, they get picked up by seagulls, they get eaten by seagulls, they get flicked into the water, and once they're in the water, the aquatic life ends up choking on them. And so, you know, the classic meme of somebody using a plastic straw and then an eco-warrior shouting at them, "Don't you care about the sea turtles, man?" And this is because, you know, these plastics are quite harmful, so we want to keep them out of landfill as much as possible, and that will keep our environment a lot safer. Category number 6 is polystyrene. Now, polystyrene, you probably know polystyrene as that little white food container there, or the kind of yellowy, sickly orange coloured food carriers that you get to keep food warm. We have them there because it keeps food warm. It's a very good insulator. Now, you get two types of polystyrene. Polystyrene is that hard plastic that you'll find on CD cases, children's plates, children's cutlery, Airfix models are made out of polystyrene, but you get also expanded polystyrene, that kind of really thick white blobby foamy stuff that you'll get inside packaging to keep the boxes spaced away from the product, to keep the product as safe as possible. Now this stuff is great for that. It's a brilliant thermal insulator. It's fantastic at protecting things. It's absolutely dreadful for the environment though. This expanded polystyrene just kind of expands even more when it's wet. So when it's in the stomach of a creature, if anything eats it, it expands and does serious harm because it doesn't come out very easily either. So polystyrene's pretty bad for the environment. And finally, we have our other category, number 7. And this is stuff like polycarbonate, nylon, ABS, all of the kind of non-recyclable plastics. These are big, heavy-duty plastics, or even nylon is kind of spindly, and we can spin it into thread, and we can wear nylon clothes or use nylon fabrics. Unfortunately, most of these contain very harmful chemicals, so if you start trying to melt them down to reuse them, these harmful chemicals get released, and that's not good. Right, so if you were following along, HDPE is high density polyethylene, polyethylene, PVC is polyvinyl chloride, LDPE is low density polyethylene, PP is polypropylene, PS polystyrene, and other things like polycarbonate and nylon. And as we said before, only categories 1, 2 and 5 can currently be recycled. Alright, now over to you. What I'd like for this task, this final task of the lesson, is to tell me what you think or what you found by doing some research we should do with plastics that can't be recycled. What I'd like you to do is a little bit of research. Are we close to being able to recycle the other 4 types of plastics that we currently can't? And what can we do with those types of plastic at the moment? Should we store it somewhere waiting for a technology to be available to recycle it? If so, where? Where's the safest place to put it? Can we do something else with it? Can we use it in its current form? Can bottles be reused? All of that kind of stuff. Right, spend some time doing that research and write a little account of what we should do with that plastic. And I will see you next time. Stay safe. I'll see you soon.